Storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. In recent years, video games have been getting more popular, allowing for more players, companies, and people with a passion for both playing and storytelling to join the scene. We wanted to make this documentary to show other people the joys of video game storytelling, how immersive they can be, and what kinds of stories they can tell, and the method they use to convey it.
Detroit is a game that allows you to interact with the story and how different choices change your story. The opening music after Connor's first sequence future and how androids have replaced humans' jobs and how the city of Detroit has grown in its future. Our main protagonist for that sequence, Kara, is experiencing the city of Detroit through our eyes with attentiveness and curiosity, seeing the difference in lives throughout Detroit. Kara is one of the three main protagonists, with her story being shown from the very start of the game. She is an android that follows the instructions of her owner Todd. Kara is portrayed as a character that is innocent and caring, and these traits help her grow as a character and keep her story relevant to the game's main story. Her interactions with the other protagonists show a protective personality of Alice, how strongly she is protective of her almost daughter-like figure. Her relationship towards the other characters, such as Luther, is distant, as her main concern is keeping Alice safe. Luther's relationship with Kara is portrayed as a family-style relationship, with Alice seeing both Luther and Kara as the parents she could never have. Kara's main focus is to keep Alice safe, and this is shown throughout the story, with her treatment of characters such as Ralph, Jerry, and Luther under the influence of Zlatko. Kara's story also relates to Marcus's, with if Kara is placed in the detention centre with Luther and Alice, or at the border crossing to Canada. If the public opinion is high and nobody is sacrificed, then Kara, Luther, and Alice all survive. The playstyle from a player can decide the story of Kara, with her either being cold towards Alice or a maternal figure for Alice, giving her a family with her, and if Luther hasn't died, then also Luther acting as a caring father. Connor is a conflicted protagonist throughout Detroit's story, and judging on the player's actions can either keep Connor on the side of humanity and remain a lifeless android serving humans' purpose, or deviate from his programming and help Marcus fight for androids' freedom and rights. Connor, even if choosing to stay in machine, can build a relationship with his partner Hank, which either leads to a friendship with Hank or a feeling of disdain between them, with Connor only wanting to accomplish his mission. What did you think of Detroit, and why did you enjoy it?
I thought Detroit was probably one of the best story-driven games I've played from PlayStation. It was really just like I started playing on PlayStation, so I didn't really know what to get or what to play. But then I started with Detroit, and then I just thought it would, the story was good, the characters were excellent, and the voice acting and the narrative was well-rounded.
Is Detroit's playstyle enjoyable?
I think so, yeah. I think that there are other games that personally I do enjoy more, just because you are at the helm of the game, you are controlling everything. But even a game such as Detroit, you still get that experience that you're choosing the decisions, it's your playthrough, your playstyle, how you want to choose things. And I think it is enjoyable either way, because whilst you're watching a movie, you still get that experience that you are being them, like you actually do get to be those characters and choose how you want to manipulate them in your own way.
Out of the three main protagonists, who did you enjoy the most?
I enjoyed Connor, and I know it's like just a sort of like, that's what everyone's going to pick, but I feel like his relationship with Hank, I feel like his humour and just the way he works in general, I think is probably what makes him like probably the best character of the story. And I think if there were out of all three of them, Marcus, Kara and Connor, I think I've paid more attention to Connor and cared more about his story routes rather than someone like Marcus.
Interactive movie-style games, what appeals to you the most with them?
I think the thing that appealed to me the most is, due to me not seeing many games of that genre, the fact that they made a movie and the game in one was really weird but cool at the same time. And I did enjoy the fact that your outcomes affected that game, and it was just a really cool experience for me. The only other game that I'd seen before Detroit was Late Shift, and Late Shift I think was one of the most enjoyable experiences because as personally I do enjoy movies, and the fact that you could affect that movie, I thought it was just so insane. And then when I played Detroit, that type of game just really connects to you as a person. And overall, I think it's just something that everyone should play because it's just a really nice experience.
So with Detroit's heavy themes, with the signs of drug abuse and the racism towards androids, did it impact you heavily?
Of course, I wasn't as impacted, but I was still impacted by the story because as you get to play through the game, you care more about the characters, and if they're going through something like that, then you empathise with them. But for something like abuse or something like that, I didn't fully connect with it because I didn't personally go through any of that. So I feel like if someone went through all that, then that would have affected them a lot more than it did for someone like me.
2, 1. So were you impacted by Detroit's heavy themes with the signs of drug abuse and the racism towards androids?
I think whoever you are infected in some way. I know at the start, due to me not being as connected to the characters, I didn't feel impacted by that, but when you learn the characters' backstories, the way that they are just normal robots but then turn into deviants, you do gradually become more connected, and so you do feel impacted by these. The fact that at the start with Kara, she's just a robot, but then you see Todd drinking, doing all this abuse to her. Even when Kara gets abused by Todd and when he abuses his daughter, I think that people may resonate to that if they have been abused in their time, and so it allows them to feel more connected to the game. And even when later on in the game you see drug abuse, you see all the drinking that has affected the robots, I feel that it really can affect someone if they've been put into that situation. Me personally, obviously I've not been through abuse and drugs and stuff like that, and so for me, I don't really think they affected me, but someone else who has been through them experiences, I think it could be really reassuring to them.
Connor's story mainly focuses on deviants and why and how they break through the programming. The main premise behind his story is to have Connor realise that RA9, what deviants see as a god, is a belief that androids used to believe in. This belief becomes a strong point through both Marcus and Connor's story, being a main point of why the deviants follow Marcus or Connor so strongly if following the deviant playthrough. The outfit change that Connor goes through when on board Jericho both symbolises for Connor not only his breakaway from his programming and how strongly his views has changed once his programming was broken, but also how he wants to help and how he realised that killing the leader of Jericho would stop androids trying to earn their freedom. Machine Connor is a lot more intense of a character with a cold personality following his programming and Amanda's instructions with no conflictions to deviancy, and only going to complete his mission and does everything and anything with no regard for life or his own. Marcus is the final protagonist and goes from a peaceful artist carer to the leader of the deviants. Marcus' story is a straightforward one, with him fighting for androids, and depending on the playstyle of your playthrough, Marcus can go down 3 very different pathways, with other side characters from Marcus' story influence his choices, and who out of most deviants are closest to you. Marcus as a character grows, being a unique model created by Kamsky himself to the other androids believing he is what they believe to be as RA9, and leading them to peace or violence. The final protagonist analysis. The main 3 protagonists all have their own branching storylines, all only have characters, with there being numerous ways characters can treat each other, with disdain or kindness. This is all dependable on the player's playstyle and how they are wanting to have their protagonist be, and where their morals really lie. What if we had a game that didn't want you to find its story? What if there was a game where you have to actively search for it? Well, then look no further than From Software's 2015 Gothic hack and slash Bloodborne.
So Bloodborne to me, it was something that I tried when I got my PS5.
But I got into it due to my friends, and it is a game that I find really enjoyable due to the fact that I do like more competitive or harder games.
I really enjoyed it, but it's sort of a lot difficult to get into than most other games. I've played Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, I've played Demon Souls on the PS3 and the PS5, I've played Elden Ring and a bit of Sekiro as well.
Bloodborne was the first one that I had played. I would like to play the other games as I've really enjoyed Bloodborne so far, and I did really enjoy the art style in the game. I think it matched the game perfectly.
But the combat, I will inform you that is the most hardest part to get into, because I feel like the controls for it are a little bit finicky compared to something like what was on Dark Souls 3.
But so far I think the story is very, very good. The fact that as soon as you spawn into the world, you're allowed to knock on people's doors and then they don't allow you into their homes. And so that's a very ominous experience, and that you are the only hunter in that world and everything else is trying to kill you. I think it's a very weird experience for something like that, because usually you are around allies in other games.
The first boss. I can't remember its name exactly, but I have the most memorable moment with that, because that's probably as far as I've gotten. However, what I feel like is that because it was so memorable, because I stressed out so much and I kept dying over and over and over again because I forgot to select a weapon.
Bloodborne is an 8-year-old game made by From Software after their cult classic Dark Souls. While the B team worked on Dark Souls 2 to carry the hype and fanbase that Miyazaki had brought to the company, Miyazaki instead worked on a completely new IP, heavily inspired by Lovecraft's works. Taking the experimental storytelling for that Dark Souls used to the next level, Bloodborne starts off with the player character coming to the town of Yharnam to seek help for their unknown disease.
Oh, yeah. Pale blood. Well, you've come to the right place.
When you make your character and start playing, you'll find your first instruction: seek pale blood to transcend the hunt. Then we get immediately killed by a werewolf. Once we return with our new weapon in hand, we can get our revenge and make our way through the clinic, eventually finding our lamp, and getting to talk to Gehrman in the Hunter's Dream, where we get our second, more easy to understand instruction.
Just go out and kill a few beasts. It's for your own good.
With new instructions, you fight through central Yharnam,
What a thrill.
going face to face with your first hunter. After the fight against the father and a lot of wandering around, we can find a place to enter, Old Yharnam.
You there! Hunter! Didn't you see the warning? Turn back, or the hunter will face the hunt.
I no longer dream, but I was once a hunter too. There's nothing more horrific than a hunt. The things you hunt, they're not beasts. They're people.
Bloodborne hides its true story behind the beasts. From what you've seen and what we've read up until this point, you can just assume that your story is just a hunt. But the rabbit hole really goes deeper than it seems.
The password.
Bloodborne holds a multitude of kin from the cosmos, heavily inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's stories, the Kalalu mythos. Your first instance with these guys would probably be the brain-sucking Cathedral Ward, but if you'd never met them, then it would be Rom, the Bergenworth spider. As your first sight of the cosmic influence in Bloodborne, she can be a little lackluster, but really it's the lore around her that makes her so important, rather than her boss fight. It's theorised that Rom was once a scholar at Bergenworth. Since the game doesn't confirm this theory, it lies only in theory. But what we do know is that ROM acts as a barrier, protecting all of humanity from the horrors that they cannot perceive. Anything related to the inhuman Great Ones of the cosmos is shielded from humanity, unless humanity starts opening its eyes.
We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open. Fear the old blood. We are thinking of the basest of planes. What we need are more eyes.
When the world has been unshackled by its restricting binds of the vacuous ROM, the first thing we see is an amygdala, a great one. What was once a strange vortex that would inflict you with madness is now a tangible being. Amygdala litter the streets, overshadowing every turn you take. They are worshipped, likely not for their power, but for their numbers. They are everywhere. We can assume these great ones have been left behind by the rest of their kin, similarly to a Bretus, as most great ones we can interact with are all locked behind a nightmare of some sort. A Bretus is described as abandoned, being the only great one that is possible to kill in the real world. She is docile unless attacked, and looks to be mourning before a stone corpse of a large spider similar to Rom. We also learn what the choir have been doing with the abandoned Great One, and how they've been miraculously healing the townsfolk of all disease. There are actually two schools that extend from Bergenworth's original teachings, the church choir and the school of Menzies. Menzies, along with the lecture building that extends from Bergenworth, have been completely ripped from reality, existing only in the nightmare, the realm where great ones reside and exist in.
Oh, Amidala, have mercy on the poor bastard.
The healing church, obsessed with the idea of ascending beyond their own mortal coil through the use of insight and obtaining inhuman knowledge, used this knowledge to bring an infant into the very peak of the nightmare realm. This infant is Murgo, and he's being used to lure the Great Ones down to their school of Menzies, so that they can make contact and ascend. Bloodborne is a game about cycles, and as you progress through the game, it only gets more obvious.
Good hunter, you've done well. The night is near its end. You will die, forget the dream, and awake under the morning sun. You will be freed from this terrible hunter's dream.
The first obvious use of a cycle is the hunt, where presumably every month on a full moon, the hunt will begin again. Master Willem's teachings depict death and birth through blood. One of the late game bosses is named the One Reborn, and the cycle will begin once again once you silence the harrowing cries of a newborn child. However, if you consume all 3 umbilical cords littered around the game, you can resist the Moon Presence's power with your own. You kill the Moon Presence and take its power, transforming yourself into an infant Great One, reminiscence of the Moon Presence.
Are you cold? Oh, good hunter.